I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about managing your money. And also, we're going to talk about how to make sure you make some money, because if you don't make some, you can't manage it very well. Okay. And then we're going to talk about really some long term things about money. And I hope to have some time to answer some questions. Now, I'll be really honest, whenever I was in seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, too, and 12th, I wasn't thinking about money a whole lot. And um, and I would encourage you, not that you need to make it to everything that you think about, and you should probably never make it everything you think about, but the sooner you start thinking about being disciplined with your money, the better. Because habits are require discipline, and the only way to really turn something from something that you really have to be disciplined with into a habit is to do it a lot. And so if you wait until you're, been in a job and now you're 20 or 30 years old or 40 years old to try to start to develop that habit, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And life becomes a little more complex, complicated, complex. There's more things that are going on. And so it's harder to introduce new habits into your life a lot of times. So that's why I would encourage you to think about that as we are going through, and how you can maybe pick up a few of the things we talk about and um, and implement them. Okay, so I am a business owner here in Chattanooga, and I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different industries, which has kind of turned out to be a pretty cool thing because I've learned a lot about a lot of different things. I spent a decent chunk of time in real estate and then 10 years in banking. And so I'm going to pull from a bank that I used to work with, and we're going to go through a slideshow together. So I am going to first, before I share screens, get my slide to the right place. And this should work. All right. Is everybody seeing us managing your money section? All right, good. Let's get this presented as a full slideshow. Okay. All right. So first, we're going to talk about managing your money, and what this I like to kind of hit on the fact that this is just some cool things to think about, just to implement. There's a lot to learn about when you talk about money, and so this doesn't include all of it. It's just a good kind of starter point as you think about how to handle your money. So we're going to spend hopefully about 30 minutes on this part, and then we'll move into some other aspects of your money. But the things we're going to talk about tonight are: what are the steps for setting financial goals? How can you track your daily spending habits? How can you prepare a personal saving and spending plan? And then, are there tools to help you manage your cash flow? And then finally, are there ways to increase your income and decrease your spending? So, I'm going to manage my screen here just a little bit. All right. So the first thing you got to do is you got to be specific and really think through these things for you personally. It's kind of like if you try to put on your dad's shirt. Okay. Probably most of you, your dad's shirt is a little bit big for you. Is that true? Anybody got a dad bigger than you? Yeah, probably most of us. And so you try to put that thing on, it's just going to be awkward. It's going to be weird. And eventually, you're not going to put up with wearing that shirt anymore. Okay. Because it's not specific to you. It's just, it's actually becomes pretty annoying. And so you want to be specific to you and what your needs are when you're thinking about your money, whether it's now as seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 12th graders, or whether it's when you're uh, an adult a little bit later on in life. So let's talk about first being specific with setting some financial goals. Okay. So you can see here you want to identify your financial goals first. Now, I want to get some participation here. And as we think about identifying our financial goals, you can see in the slide that it says house, car, college. Okay. So if you are, um, let's say, if you're in eighth grade and you're maybe not thinking about where you're going to go to school or how much it's going to cost to go to college, right? Is that, you think that's probably true, Jake? Have you been thinking about how much it's going to cost to go to college? Not so much, right? Probably isn't something that's come to your mind, which makes sense. Now, it should for your mom and dad, though, okay, because it's just really around the corner. So, but we want to identify some financial goals. So, who would be the brave first person to kind of think or share what a good financial goal would be for somebody that's in seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, or 12th grade? Any ideas?
This is when you can unmute and interact.
Maybe when you if you get like allowance, you can see how much you get, and then you can make a goal to see how long it'll take you to get to a certain price so you can buy something.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So, as I think, Blake, did you say you're in eighth grade or ninth grade? Eighth grade, right? Eighth grade. So, as an eighth grader, what's something that you would be like, man, I would love to have one of those? What's something that's just kind of cool that you love to have?
Um, Probably an iPad.
An iPad. Okay. So, do you have any idea how much an iPad costs?
Um, about $450.
Yep, 450 bucks. Now, that is a great goal to save for. So that I would like for you, Blake, maybe if you got something to jot down, just put that down for yourself as an iPad. Jot that down. And if anybody else has some notes, you should put one of yours, just one financial goal that you, something that you would like to have happen, but it was going to take some money to do it. That's all a financial goal really is. So let's share a couple of other ideas. Blake, I really appreciate you sharing, because sometimes, on a webinar with people you know or don't know, and you're not maybe super certain whether you're going to even answer it right. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. It takes a lot of guts. So well done, Blake. Who's next that could maybe share something that you would like to see that you'd be able to do, but it would take some money to be able to make it happen? What's something that somebody would share?
One of my one of my financial goals is to go on a road trip with my friends in approximately 2 years. But we have to save up some money before we can do that.
On a road trip. Okay. Now who was talking?
That was me, Katie.
Oh, I see you, Katie. Where's this road trip gonna be to?
We're planning on going to DC.
Okay, awesome. Now, have you started talking about the cost involved with going to DC?
Yes, we've figured out that we approximately all should have about $900 saved up.
$900. Mercy. Oh, wow. That's twice as much as an iPad, Blake. So 900 bucks. Now, so does that include, I guess, gas to get there?
Yes, it includes everything. There's a group of us, so all of us are going to be chipping in their gas and where we're staying and stuff. So we divvied it all up, and it's a $900 per person.
Cool. So I'm guessing that probably includes you got to have somebody's vehicle or you have to rent one. Okay.
It's going to be my car.
Okay. So your car is going to need to be roadworthy, right? To carry a bunch of people in it to DC. So you're going to want to make sure you have good tires or tune up, oil change, things like that, right?
Yeah.
And If you're going to go in the summer, you might want to make sure you got some AC working in that vehicle. So there could be some upfront costs just before you even hit the road, right?
Yes.
And then you're going to have to eat, or you're going to want to at least. So there's going to be costs for food. And are you going to stop on the way up at a?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've planned out our entire route and then budgeted out like food and for bringing stuff and what we're stopping and stuff. My friends and me are thorough. We're overachievers in that route. We just never actually get around to actually doing what we plan for.
Well, that is a lot of times maybe that is has to do with a bunch of different things, but one of them for sure is because maybe one of them could be because you never have the finances to actually do it, right? So you plan it out, but you don't implement a game plan. Now, one thing that I should have done as a presenter before I got started was make sure that I have enough battery in my laptop, which I don't. So I need to give just 1 second so I can go get my plug and make sure I don't die on you in the middle of this. Okay, so I will be right back. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Oops, didn't mean to do that.
That's like you talking about your road trip, Katie. It's like forgetting to put gas in your vehicle. Important things. While Mr. Paul is getting his cord, has everyone thought of something they want to share? Not, you don't have to share, but if you've thought of something to share, you can sorry, I was distracted by the words showing up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that, honestly. So I'll try to fix that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why is it doing that, Joe? I'm gonna mute myself again. Mr. Paul's taking it back over.
I'm glad you figured out how to turn on closed captioning somehow. That's nice.
Yeah, that's how good I am. I don't know how to turn it off, so sorry about that. Let me see. Okay. Oh, it's still there. So, sorry, we're gonna have to deal with that. So, yeah, so thank you. Anybody else that's like, you know what, I just really would like to share what I've thought about. That's my goal. Anybody have something they'd like to, before we move on?
I'm saving up for an easel.
An easel. Okay, so are you a painter?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very cool. Do you know how much an easel is, the one that you'd like to get?
The ones I'm looking at are about $100 or a little more.
Okay, great. Very cool. Very cool. So everybody should have something that they're thinking about, maybe that they've written down on their notes, that they would like to be able to have see it happen, that would require some money to do. Okay. So then we're going to organize our financial goals. And so if you had more than one, which probably you would, because I'm guessing, Katie, that maybe 900 bucks is a good amount of money to save up between now and when you go on your trip. When's this goal time to go on your trip?
About 2 years.
Okay. So is there a likelihood that there's something else that you might want that you need to spend money on between now and 2 years from now?
Yes.
Of course. So if you added another thing to the list of financial goals, now you've got to organize those goals as far as what's most important. I need to get multiple things done, but what do I need to have happen first? Okay, so you're going to organize those goals, and then you're going to educate yourself on how can I accomplish my goal. Maybe Blake, you shared about the iPad. So maybe you look at and I want to start learning about the type of iPad that I want, because there's multiple different types. And maybe I also want to look at, okay, do I want a brand new iPad or do I want a refurbished iPad? I could maybe save some money, but maybe I don't want to potentially have an issue with the device. So you want to start educating yourself on exactly what you want and how you can get there. And then one of the most important things to do is then evaluate your progress. So, Haley, when would you like to have that easel? When would be a great time as far as a goal to be able to have that
By the year's
by the year's end? So by the end of 2021, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then you could take, you could say, all right, I'm going to start my savings um, for my easel in the month of February, which is what we're in. So that would give us 11 months, and you need to come up with $100. So 100 divided by 11. Anybody got that answer? How much money does Haley need to save each month to be able to have $100 at the end of 2021?
Around $9.1 a month.
Yeah, $9.10. So you could say 10 bucks, okay? And then now you'd want to start by the end of February, you'd want to check, did I get my $10? Now let's say you did. Okay, great. Now you're moving into March. And let's say March was a little bit harder and you're only able to make $5 more. So now you have 15. So now you got to think, okay, I got to catch up. So how do I want to accomplish that? I need to make more money in order to be able to have the end result that I'm looking for. So this is why you want to evaluate your progress. If you didn't evaluate your progress and you made it all the way through the year and didn't, some months you didn't make enough, then you get to the end of the year and you'd be upset because you didn't meet your goal, because maybe you'd only end up with $89 instead of 100. Does that make sense, Haley? Yeah. So that's the next thing we want to do, is evaluate our progress. Okay. So in order to do that, we're going to need to decide where and kind of determine where our money comes from and where it's going. So who does have an allowance right now? Anybody? Okay. Marie, great. And Jake, all right, awesome. I saw your two hands. So you got money coming in from an allowance. Does anybody have a job? Do any a little job or anything to make money? Not yet. That's totally okay. By the way, Andrew and Tracy, glad to have you on. As soon as you can start your video, that would be great to be able to have you join us. We're glad you're with us. So you want to know where your money is coming from. Now, Marie, you'd said that you have an allowance, and do you have any responsibilities, anything that you have to use that money for on a monthly basis?
Not exactly. Yeah, not exactly.
So you don't have to contribute towards the food in the house or the electric bill quite yet. Is that right?
No, I don't.
Okay. So at a point, you may have some stuff. Like, I know that many parents say, okay, well, it's time you're allowed to drive and you can drive the family car, but for you to drive the family car anywhere other than school, you need to put your own gas in the tank, right? So then you may have an allowance, but you also have a certain amount of money that's going to go out in order for you to just be able to drive the car. Or maybe they say, also, we want you to start paying for your portion of the insurance. And maybe that's $15 a month. So if let's say you got a $25 allowance and you have to pay $15 a month in insurance, and now you only have $10 left for gas. Okay. So that's what you got to decide is, hey, where's my money coming from? and where is it going? And what you do, and when you think about those two things, you're really talking about generating or creating a spending plan. And as you can see, a spending plan should be balanced, flexible, and realistic. So if you are thinking about a spending plan, where is money coming in and where do you have to spend it? First, it should be balanced. So you need to make sure that it's incorporating all of the things that are required for you to be able to live, okay, especially as you maybe move on, get out of school, start your own job, and you're living on your own. It also needs to incorporate some other things other than just your wants, right? So it has to be some things that are requirements for your needs and for your wants. So it's got to be balanced. It also needs to be flexible because sometimes things don't quite go exactly the way you thought they would, right? Has that ever happened to anybody where you planned one thing, but something totally different happened? Raise your hand if that's happened to you. Yeah, exactly. Like a couple weeks ago, I got in the car or went to the garage to get in the car, and I was fully expecting that I'd turn it on so that I could take the girls to school, but it didn't turn on. Why? Because my battery had died. So batteries are not super cheap. They're actually pretty expensive. I think it was like $120. Well, I wasn't really expecting to spend $120 that day on a battery. So my budget, my spending plan has to be a little bit flexible to be able to allow for some things that are unexpected to come up. Okay. And then they need to be realistic. So let's say, Marie, back to you, you said you have an allowance, and I don't want you to tell me how much it is. So let's just pretend that it's $20 a month. Okay. Now, if your goal was to save $1,000 by the summertime, okay, and you don't have any other way to make money but $20 a month from your allowance, you've got February, March, April, May, June, 5 months, $20 times 5 is how much?
100.
That's 100. Little bit off from 1,000, right? So you've got to make sure your spending plan, or some people will call it a budget, is realistic. Okay. It wouldn't be realistic for you if you only have $20 coming in each month to be able to save 1,000, right? So any questions to this point from anybody? No? All right, let's keep going. So here is an example of a spending plan, okay? And so you could make a little spreadsheet, a little chart for yourself, and you could say, okay, this is every day of the month, and a lot of people don't know where their money's going. You know, they get a paycheck, it hits the checking account, and they kind of spend money until there's not any left. And then they're like, oh no, what am I going to do? And then they have to live kind of really meager and frugal. And they try to do everything they can not to spend any money because they don't have any left to spend. And it just sneaks up on them. So one of the first things to do is determine where your money is going and look. And basically all you have to do for this is write down the 30 days, for instance, in a month, and every time that you spend money, jot it down and write down exactly what it was for. You do that a couple of months and you'll know exactly how much money you're spending on the things that you have to have, and maybe the things that you realize you don't really have to have to be able to make it. And you could realize that, oh man, I stop at the gas station on the way to school and I buy a candy bar or a snack, or maybe on the way home from school, and I spent $100 just on snacks last month. Well, I'd like to put that towards an easel, right? Or an iPad or a trip to DC instead. But if we don't track where our money goes, we never really know. And then sometimes you start to think like it's impossible to do things that are fun, it's not, you could never accomplish your goal, which isn't true. It just feels that way because you aren't managing what you have well. And so it's kind of it's your money's beating you instead of you, being in control of your money. Okay, your money's controlling you, and it's telling you when you can do this and do that. So this is the first thing you have to do to figure out where is my money going. And right now, as seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 12th graders, and maybe some other grades too that we didn't get to cover on the beginning. Some of you maybe you don't have a lot of expenses, which is pretty nice right now, but you start as soon as you start having some expenses, you'd want to make sure that you track them. Okay, and although you don't have expenses, you still probably spend money on things from time to time. And if you were to jot those down when you did spend your money and look back at the end of the month and look at where that money went, you can kind of just decide, yeah, that was a good decision, or man, I would do that differently next month. I'm not going to spend my money there. Okay. Any questions on tracking where your money goes? No? All right. Parker, are you trying to show me your bicep or are you taking a nap? Which one is it? I mean, I see you got a bicep there. That's nice.
No,
But,
I'm listening.
all right. That's cool. All good. I'm just messing with you. So let's go to, let's talk about ways to increase your income. Okay. So you might say, Blake says, I want an iPad. And Haley says, I want an easel. And Katie says, I want to take a road trip. And you know how much money you need, but you got to think, what am I going to do to increase my money so I can actually accomplish this goal? So the first thing is knowing your expenses, because some of your expenses you could actually change. Okay. So there's a lot of times where I look at my checking account. Anybody have any games they like to play on your phone? For instance, an app that you play a game on. Anybody?
Madden football.
Madden football. Okay. Now, did you have to pay for Madden football to be downloaded on your phone?
No.
No. So it's free. So some apps are free, but some of them cost some money. One of the things that'll trick me is different ways to watch stuff on TV. Okay. So it says, okay, if you want to have this app, we'll give you this access to this particular TV program or station for free for the first 30 months or 30 days. Okay. And then after the 30-day period, they want to charge you $5.95, $13, something like that. We've enjoyed using that program. And then before you know it, you've totally forgotten the fact that they're going to start charging you for it. And months down the road, they've been making a lot of money. You may not even be using that TV program anymore, but because you haven't been tracking your expenses, what's coming out of your checking account, you didn't know. And so over time, you could spend thousands of dollars on something that you're not even using. This would happen a lot to me when I was working in the banking industry. And I would go through people's checking accounts with them and show them things that I thought that maybe they shouldn't be spending money on anymore. And they were like, I didn't even know I was being charged for that. And so they should know if they were tracking their money, okay? But they because you don't, and there's really no way to get that money back. It's gone, So that's really important for you to track your money, and so you have to know your income and then also know your expenses. So this is a great example of your expenses and your so two types of expenses. Okay, you've got your income, and in this scenario, this family makes $4,640. Raise your hand if you think, if whenever you look at that amount of money, you look at that and you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. $4,640. Anybody? Is that a lot of money? I don't know about you, but man, whenever I was, in seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 12th grade, I thought that was a lot of money. Allie, you said, so let's say you had $4,640 every month that came into your piggy bank. Would you think that's a lot of money to have?
Well, now I would, but like looking at like everything adults have to pay for, it seems like not enough.
Well, that is very good, very wise. It is a lot of money. And if all you got to do is pay $15 for your car insurance, that'd be pretty awesome. But let's look at this family. So this family's $4,640 is a lot of money for a young person. Okay. But let's look where their money is going. Just to be able to take care of their family, they spend $1,600 on their mortgage or their rent. They spend $250 on insurance. Somebody's got to pick up the trash, right? You have to take it out, but somebody's got to pick it up. So they pay $30 a month for collection for the trash service to come. They pay $450 for their car payments, and they have $80 that they have to pay each month for car insurance. They've got a couple other loans, whether that's a credit card or some sort of loan that they have. And then health insurance, which, wow, that'd be great if it was just $75. It's a lot more than that. And then they have kids, if you noticed, and so they have some daycare charges that they have to pay. So they're fixed expenses, meaning these expenses happen exactly the same amount every single month. So their rent or their mortgage is always $1,600. It's fixed. It's not going to change. But that's not all of their expenses. They also have savings over here, which is a variable expense. Now, who would think that saving money would be an expense? So this is very important. If you're going to work hard for your money, and you know you got to pay certain people, like the trash guy to pick up the trash lady, the trash person to pick up your trash. You got to pay them $30 a month. You got to pay the your landlord or the mortgage company. You've got to pay the bank for your car payment. If you're going to make all these payments to people, you're the one who works so hard. Shouldn't you pay yourself some? Anybody think that's a good idea? Nope. Or yet. Is it a good idea if you're working so hard for you to actually pay yourself some? I think so. Okay. So if I'm going to work hard and I'm the one who's working 40 hours a week on a job, I would like for some of that money to be that is just for me, for some of my goals. So, like, I'm working hard, can some of that money be for me to save up to go on a road trip? Right, Katie? Yeah. Or should I just give all my money away to other people who I've got to pay them so I can survive? So savings, if you don't make savings, personal savings, one of your expenses, something that is in your budget that you have to put in, that you have to put money towards every month, then you may not save money. And so it's really important to add that into your budget as well. Now it's a variable expense because it doesn't have to be $200. You set it for $200, but in a month where you had a little extra money, you could save $250. Or if you had to buy a new battery like I did last month, then maybe you only save $50 because you put $150 towards a car battery. Okay. Other expenses there that could change based on the use of that particular service, you see electricity, water, your cell phone, car maintenance, different things like that. Education. Okay, so my girls go to a school where I have to pay tuition. All right. And it would be great if tuition was always just a certain amount, but there's something like a technology fee, there's something like an athletic fee, there's other things that come along. And so that's not always fixed. Sometimes that changes. All right. So you see their total variable expenses is $1,835. So we looked and saw that their income was $4,640. They also had a little bit of interest that they made off of an investment that brought in an extra $10 a month. So $4,650, and their expenses were $4,570. So after that, Allie, I think you were right. $4,640 seems like a lot until you start looking at, wow, there's a lot of expenses and I don't have much money left over. Maybe $4,640 isn't that much after all. So let's keep on going. So there's different ways that you can make sure that you save money, okay? And one of those things is an envelope system. And as a young person who doesn't have a checking account yet, this is a great way for you to save money. You've got an envelope system and you write something that you want to put money towards out of your allowance, for instance, each month, and you put that in that envelope. So Haley, if you're wanting to save $10 a month for your easel, then you'd have an envelope that says easel on it, and you could write a note at the bottom that says $10 per month, and you could make sure that whenever that money comes in, it goes right in that envelope. That's exactly what it's for. It's not for anything else. You got to make sure that you accomplish your goal, and you could do the same thing for a road trip or for an iPad, right? And obviously there's other things, especially as an adult, that then you have to spend money on each month. So that envelope system can grow. Other systems, some people use a budget box or a spreadsheet. And today there are a lot of systems that are integrated right within your bank's checking account. So my checking account allows for me to set away that every dollar that's spent, I can make it go to a certain line item. And so it's like a spreadsheet, but it's pretty automatic. And it tells me at the end of each month exactly how much I spent on the different things that I've outlined in my personal spending plan. So it tells me how much I spent on gas. This is really helpful for variable expenses, things that you don't know are going to be exact every month. But these are just a few of the different systems. A computer spreadsheet is really helpful too. It calculates things for you. It's very organized. And until you have a checking account, which may be some software that comes from your bank, this is a good way to do it too. There's also some other tools that you don't have to have a bank account to be able to utilize different software systems. But these are just a few options. Any questions? No? Who would say that, you know what, out of these three options here, if you were going to choose one, that you'd say, you know what, I think that envelope system would be pretty simple, pretty easy. I think I'd like to use an envelope system. Anybody? Haley? Cool. So that's great. So you could put for sure an easel, right? Because that's one of the things you said, but maybe there's something else too. Maybe there's a few things, and you could have a few envelopes that are set aside just to keep track and make sure that you've got enough money going in those envelopes each month. Who would use maybe a spreadsheet? Anybody like Excel spreadsheets or like to use spreadsheets, or anybody use that instead? Marie, yeah? You like to get on the computer and create spreadsheets? I do too. Spreadsheets are pretty neat. I use them a lot for my work, but they're a great tool to be able to track your spending. You can create a column for each thing, and each month how much you're putting towards that particular item. So that's really great. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Keeping accurate records, okay? One of the toughest things about tracking your money is keeping records correctly. And so you can see here, there's different ways to do that, whether it's on your computer or in a file system. Whenever you get to the point where you have bills, you're going to have mail come to your house, and it's going to, for bills that you have to pay, like your electric or your internet, or your water bill. And so you've got to have a system in place so that you don't lose those bills and forget that they need to be paid, right? So that could be a bill box, or it could be as soon as you get that particular bill in the mail, it goes to an envelope that you're going to then make sure you've got that money set aside for. So let's say, Haley, you said the envelope system. For instance, you could put that $10 a month towards your easel, but if you had a bill or two, you'd have a couple of other envelopes, and every time you got money, you'd put the money that you needed in the envelope for the easel, but you also put the rest of the money distributed through the other envelopes that you have, maybe for electric bill or maybe for some food. And so then whenever it comes time to be able to spend money on those items, it's there in that particular envelope. Okay. So the other systems, which are more technology type systems, things that could be on an app or on your online through your bank, they're really doing the exact same thing as an envelope system. They're just using technology to track those things. But in order for you to know what you need to spend, you got to have a system in place so that you don't miss on paying some of those bills. If you miss paying a bill on time, that person or that company will probably say, okay, we'll give you another chance to pay the bill, but now we're going to add an extra fee, a late charge to that bill. So if you're not organized with your money, then you end up spending more money. That's not fun. Okay. No reason to spend more money for the same thing just because you weren't organized. So a lot of times people who are really organized, they may not even make as much money as other people, but they live a better lifestyle because they don't pay extra when they don't need to. And it's all about being disciplined. Okay. So this is a good reason to start developing some healthy financial habits early. If you have to pay taxes, then you want to keep record of that as well. And taxes are different for different people. If your employer takes or withholds certain amount of your income to pay taxes every year, that's great. But some of us don't have the employer take out all of our taxes on the front end. And so we've got to keep track of that to make sure that we have enough to pay the IRS for taxes at the end of the year. All right, let's go ahead and move on. What happens when you don't have money and you got stuff that you got to do? Well, here's there's some things you can do to increase your income or decrease your spending. Now, there are times when life is just a little bit tough and you don't have enough money to pay a certain bill. And always the best thing to do in those types of situations is to reach out to that that bill holder and tell them your situation. Sometimes it's hard to do that because you might be a little bit embarrassed or you wished that things were different. But if you can't pay your electric bill and you wait and you don't talk to the electric company, eventually they're going to say, well, they have no intention of paying that bill, so we're going to turn their electric off. Yikes. Raise your hand if you really think it's probably better to keep your electric on, especially in the middle of the winter, right? It's probably cold or colder in Ohio right now, Haley, than it is in Tennessee. And so I'm sure it's better to have your heat on, right? So the best thing to do would be to reach out to your, for us here, my bill goes to the Chattanooga Gas Company. And they are the people who make sure if I pay my bill, whenever I turn the heat on, it's warm in the house. But if I was having a hard time paying my bill, then it would be wisest for me to reach out to the Chattanooga Gas Company and say, hey, I've got a little bit of a situation. I can't pay my electric bill this month. Can I have is there some sort of plan that you have in place to help me get back on track? And that's and when it comes to it, sometimes that may happen. And so you want to handle it the right way to get back on track as easily as possible. So you can ask for some help, but you can also go out, you can decrease your spending. Okay, if you're starting to not have enough money, instead of spending some money on going out to eat or going out to do things that cost money, like maybe going to High Point Climbing Park, or going to I don't know, what else is there? What's really fun to spend some money on? You can go out to the movies again, I think, maybe you can spend money on the movies. What are some of the other things that you like to do with your family that you know cost some money? Parker, what's something you like to do with your family that you know costs money, even if you don't have to spend it? You don't know. Your parents ever take you out to eat? Yep. Do you think it costs money? Yeah, obviously it does. So sometimes you got to alter your budget because of unexpected expenses. If you're not don't have quite enough money to pay things, and you can do things that cost a little bit less money, like eating at home instead of eating out. Instead of going to a movie with all of your family, which maybe the tickets are, I don't know, $13, $18 per person. Maybe instead you watch a movie at home, which it would cost a lot less money. Okay. So another thing you do is you can increase your income. Look for opportunities to make some more money. Okay. And so, oops. Here's some things to do to stretch your money. Okay. First is whenever you think about spending money, you wait a week before you do it. Okay. So you say, oh man, let's say Blake, you said you wanted to get an iPad, and that's $450. Is there anything else that you like to do that costs a little bit of money, a lot less than 450, but it still costs some money? Can you think of anything?
It costs money for me to play soccer.
Okay, yeah. So let's say that you wanted to go. Let's just say that you had an opportunity to get trained by a coach that played soccer professionally, and you met this guy, and man, you were excited. You're like, "Whoo! I am going to become an awesome soccer player if I get coached by this guy." But this guy needs me to pay him money for me to coach, for me to be coached by him. One thing to do, because you've got a budget in place and that wasn't part of your budget, getting coached, although it'd be awesome. So instead, you say, hey, Mr. Coach, I need to think it over. And instead of jumping into it so fast and spending money that maybe you aren't ready to spend, you wait, you let it cool off a little bit, you really think it through, and you're able to decide, make a good decision. Maybe you were supposed to, maybe it's a good idea, but maybe it's not. And you sure would be better off to be able to know for sure before you jumped on it. So that's one thing, the 1 week rule. Next is budget busters. And these are the things that you've got to look at where you're spending money and you're realizing, holy cow, I spent a whole lot more money on that than I needed to. So what you see there is coffee. You know, there's a lot of different coffee shops around. Everybody probably is familiar with Starbucks. And if you go to Starbucks, not that it's a bad thing, their coffee is great, or any other coffee shop, you're probably going to spend $4, $5 for one drink, just a small even. Okay. So that's okay. But if you did that every day, that could really eat into your $450 that you want to save for an iPad, right, Blake? It could make it a lot harder to save up money to go on a road trip, right, Katie? So instead, you might say, well, I still want to drink coffee. So instead, you brew it at home. And I use a Keurig. I like coffee. I drink it every day, especially during the winter when it's cold outside. And so, but whenever I use my Keurig, it's about 24 cents a day for me to have a cup of coffee, as opposed to $4. So let's do some quick math. $4 divided by 24 cents. That means I can drink 17 cups, 16 and a half cups of coffee through my Keurig, or 1 cup at the coffee shop. Wow. So now it doesn't mean you can't say, put in your budget that you want to be able to splurge on Fridays and go get something at the coffee shop. Okay, that's up to you. That's what's great about creating a budget. You get to decide. But if you weren't thinking about it and you're just spending money at the coffee shop all the time, then wow, every day, let's do it this way. $4 minus 24 cents is $3.76. Now, in 2 years, Katie, you want to go on your trip, right? So how many days are there in a year?
365.
Yep. So $3.76 times 365. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. $1,372.40. Just by saying, you know what, I'm going to watch out for a budget buster. Now you've got 2 years, so times 2, you could go to DC with $2,744 instead of $900 that it's needed. So you have extra. So minus $900, you go to DC with an extra $1,800 just by realizing where you got a budget buster and doing something about it. That makes sense? I don't know. I get kind of fired up about that because I think, oh, like tonight, I'm going to go back to my checking account and look it over and make sure I catch some more budget busters so I can spend money on things that I really am excited about. And a lot of times it doesn't mean you can't still have coffee, right? I can still drink coffee. I just choose to drink it differently so that I can save some more money. Next is find freebies. So look for things you can do, activities that don't cost as much money or that are even free. And then there's another thing here, which is rent. And so it shows a chainsaw. And Joe, I'm going to ask you, that you own your house and you got a property, and you have any trees on that property?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's say one of those trees was a little bit of a mess, and it's gonna fall over if you don't do something about it. And so you need to get a chainsaw. You ever looked at a chainsaw to see how much a chainsaw is?
Yeah, for a good one, about $450 or more.
Uh-oh, that's the same price as an iPad. So you got a tree that's going down, and if your name was Blake, we just happen to be a little bit older, and you had a goal of buying an iPad, but you got to protect your family and your house, so you've got to take care of that tree. And now you go out and you buy a chainsaw, and it eats up all the money you could have had for an iPad. How many times are you going to use that chainsaw? Well, Joe, how many trees do you have in your yard?
Probably like 6 total.
6 trees. Is it likely that you have to? Well, when's the likelihood you have to use that chainsaw again on any of those 6 trees?
Very unlikely.
Very, very unlikely. So instead, you could go to Home Depot or Lowe's and rent that chainsaw for a month, for a day, and probably pay 20 bucks. And now you've got $430 left to go towards your iPad. Or you could say, who is my friend that I know has a chainsaw? And you tell them, bro, I will buy you lunch if you will let me use your chainsaw. And if you took them out to lunch, it would cost you 15 bucks for their lunch. And now you got the chainsaw instead of spending $450. So these are some things that you can do to make your money go further. And then here's some good things that you can do to make sure that you're not spending too much money. Obviously, one thing is comparison shopping, looking for different opportunities, because sometimes you can get the same thing or something very comparable for less by going somewhere else, okay? But you also want to look at quality versus price. So sometimes it makes sense to spend a little more money on something that's going to last you longer. And so, for instance, Blake, I know your dad a little bit, and he's got a good sense about him for electronics. So you could say, Dad, does it make sense for me to spend $380 on a refurbished iPad instead of spending $450 on a brand new iPad? That's a good question to ask. And you would want to do some research and think about that. And certainly your dad could help you, but you may decide, you know what, it would be better for me to spend that extra $70 and know that I've got one that hasn't had to be worked on. It's brand new and it has a full warranty in place. So that's where you consider while weighing quality versus price. You wait for sales certain times of the year. You're going to be able to have a discount on certain types of things, and you can see many of those others there. And if you'd like a copy of this, I can make sure that Miss Sandy can give it to you so you can look it through. All right, and this is where we're going to wrap up this part of our savings, managing your money talk. So you can see that there's all kinds of opportunities here to save money, okay? And I can't see my full, let me get rid of this. That doesn't do it. It's okay. So there's lots of different things that you can do with your money. And the goal about this, the reason I like this slide is because there is a lot of information on here. And a lot of times what's most important to realize is that you probably don't know everything, right? There's a lot of things on this that even if you've been dealing with money for a while, maybe you don't know all the very best things you can do to make your money work the best for you, okay? And so you'd want to talk with somebody who has already been using money and saving money and doing well with their money to be able to make sure you're doing everything you can. One of the first things you want to do whenever you start living on your own and having to take care of your bills is that you want to have this cushion, okay, a savings cushion that's in place. And a lot of times 3 to 6 months is suggested, that if something happened where you couldn't work and your income stopped, or you lost your job, or something like a COVID-19 virus happens, right? Or other things that have happened recently, like a tornado, and causes a disruption in your income, you set money aside to be able to save that money so that you can make it through. Okay. And so whenever you become a certain age, and different banks are going to be a little bit different, you can get a checking account and a savings account. A lot of times you can get a savings account before you can get a checking account. And I would encourage you to talk to your parents about saying, I would like to get a savings account where I'm putting some money away on a monthly basis that is kind of there, that I can't access very easily. It'll help you develop that discipline. So whenever you get your you get a allowance, okay, every month, you could say, Mom, I want to deposit this part of it into my savings account, and start kind of realizing how a bank works, and building that relationship there. So that being said, what questions are there before we move on? All right. Miss Sandy, we're not going to take a lot more time. I'm going to go over to one more slide, which is something that Miss Sandy will send out to you. And this is just a cool thing that I found that helps you determine, kind of think through, what do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want to do to make money? And this career clarity worksheet just kind of compares 3 things that you're good at naturally, because everybody's a little bit has different skills and different talents, and thinking about those talents, and also thinking about the things that you really get fired up about, things that you're passionate about, and then finally what you really would like to accomplish with your life. And so this starts you off talking about your talents. And let's say, Blake, just because you mentioned soccer, let's say you're athletic and you really are good at soccer. Or let's say, Haley, you're very artistic and you really enjoy painting. Anybody play an instrument? Allie's like, I sort of do. Okay, Marie, what instrument do you play?
I play the piano.
Okay, so if you really enjoy playing the piano, it's a talent you've developed, then that would be one of those things that are on this list. Then we go down to the next sheet, which is your passions. Okay, so these are things that whenever you're doing these things, like it says, I like this one, it says, time will fly by when you're engaged in this, when you're doing this particular thing. Or it doesn't seem like hard work whenever you're doing this. So um, some some things in a kind of a weird way, this is kind of strange, but I do a lot of great thinking when I'm mowing the grass. Now my grass isn't hard to mow, but it's just me walking with my mower. And as much as kind of it would be nice just to pay somebody else to do it, I kind of don't want to because it's my peace time and I can really think while I'm pushing the mower. And so it allows me to, and so actually, whenever I'm mowing the grass, I don't even think about it, because I'm enjoying the thinking about other things. So I don't know that I'd say I'm passionate about mowing my grass, but something that time flies by when you're engaged in it. And then lastly, a mission. So what is it that you like to, if you could help people do a certain thing, or if you could solve a particular problem that you see that's going on around our community, what are those things? And whenever you put those three things together, then it really helps you determine how to use your talents and your passions to do something that you can really love doing with your life and find a way to get paid to do it. And you'll be good to go. And now you've got some money that you can put towards, now you can have some money that you can start to manage. So I am done with that. Miss Sandy, do you have anything that you'd like for me to cover? Any questions we want to have before we close up?
Do you guys have any questions for Mr. Paul? No? I think that you covered everything so in depth. They're like, what else is there to talk about? Thank you so much for that. Also, like Mr. Paul mentioned, if you will put your email address in the chat, I will make sure that you get what he was just going over. I can email it to you and then you can look back at it and be able to, anything you forgot or want to look at again, you'll be able to do that on your own time. So I'll let you guys do that really quick before I let everyone go, because otherwise I won't have your email address unless you have mine, and then you're welcome to email me and I will get it to you, which is sandy@riseupcooperative.org. Super simple. sandy@riseupcooperative.org. Some people are putting it in.
Yeah, and I got a message from Joe that I guess I didn't transition over to that other document. So there's a 3-page document that talks about kind of how to pick what your talents and passions and your mission would be. So that's one that Miss Sandy will be able to send to you so you can look over it since you couldn't see it on the PowerPoint.
Yes, absolutely. I wasn't sure, sorry that I didn't interrupt you and tell you that. I wasn't sure if you were wanting us to see it or if you were just talking about it, and so I didn't want to interrupt you.
I wanted to see it. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you guys can definitely see it. I will forward that to you. Just make sure, like I said, put your email in the chat. Next week, guys, we're having, I don't remember, Joe, what are we having next week? Hang on, I've got it somewhere. Don't judge a book by its cover. Mr. Doug Weissman is going to be talking about literature and how if you don't like it, you can like it. He is just like most teenage boys or most people in general, didn't like reading, and he learned how, and he's going to teach you guys what helped him to learn how to read. We all have to read, whether it be for school or whatever. So it'll be great. So that's next week, same time as tonight, 7 p.m. on Tuesday evening, whatever that date is. But anyway, thank you all so much. And I hope to see you next week. Thank you again, Mr. Paul, so much for coming tonight.
Yeah, I had a blast. Thank you so much. Awesome. Good luck, guys.
Bye, guys.